Hey, what's the deal? It's your boy Tag from Pro Wrestling Tag. You know what I mean? As of this recording, it is 6:39 p.m. January 7th, 2025. You know what I mean? And this is the first and last video of the day. You know what I mean? I gotta take care of some shit, tomorrow. And Thursday, so I'm not gonna be. I'm definitely gonna make vids tomorrow for sure. You know what I mean? It's just I've been busy. I've been fucking busy. You know what I'm saying? I've been real busy. Doing stuff at my job and everything. You know what I mean? And yeah. Yeah. Let me tell you something real quick. At my job, right? They just hired this Indian girl. Oh, she looked good than a motherfucker. You know what I mean? This Indian girl looked real fucking good. I mean, god damn. I don't think she dates outside the race though. You know what I mean? But who knows? But so Bullet Club. You guys remember the Bullet Club, right? At one time, the Bullet Club was one of the most prominent wrestling stables in the last, almost the last decade or so, right? Like 10 years ago. 10 years ago. Actually, about 12 to 13 years ago, the Bullet Club was the shit. You know what I mean? It's officially dead. The group broke up, I think, in New Year's Dash. They disbanded the Bullet Club and stuff. And, the Bullet Club honestly should have died when Kenny Omega, Cody Rhodes, Adam Page, and the Young Bucks all created All Elite Wrestling. Because, since, after that, when's the last time the Bullet Club got hot, right? The Bullet Club got hot, when those guys were there in New Japan Pro Wrestling, right? After that, you know what I mean? Like, they tried to rekindle that, that dominance, but no, the Bullet Club at that point, it got in its highest in 2018, especially with like All In and everything else, right? And it's like New Japan just kept on, they just kept on beating on a dead dog, like they kept beating on a dead horse. Like, yo, if it was, if it was still popping, right? Then, why the fuck keep it? Like, if it was popping, if New Japan, if Bullet Club was popping, why, nobody gave a fuck, about it after around 2020 and shit. It was dead. It was dead. Jay White was the leader, but, I like Jay White, but even Jay White was not going to rekindle the success of the Bullet Club that they had, years prior before he got in. You know what I mean? They should have killed that stable, honestly, around 2020. Around 2019, 2020. There was nothing there. There was nothing there with the Bullet Club. I still got my t-shirt. I still got my Bullet Club t-shirt. I use it, when I, when I'm cooking and shit like that, when I'm playing ball. I still got my shit. You know what I mean? I still got my shit. It's amazing. Like, the Bullet Club honestly came from the ashes of really the NWO, but they weren't as cool as the NWO. You know what I mean? The Bullet Club really didn't change wrestling. It did create stars, though. I ain't gonna lie, it did create stars. It did. It did. If you was part of the Bullet Club, then you was the shit. You know what I mean? Then they looked at you as a prominent figure in pro wrestling. Shit. A lot of people seem to forget that Drew McIntyre was also a member of the Bullet Club at one point. Right? AJ Styles is hands down, one of the greatest, professional wrestlers in the last 20 years. It seemed like when he got to Bullet Club, it made, he made the group better. No disrespect to Prince Devitt, because, Finn Balor definitely made the group. He started it. He started it, right? Him and Gallows and Anderson. But it seemed like when AJ got there, it just became a better group. You know what I mean? Then you had Omega. Then you had Rhodes. You had Adam Cole. Then you had all these people, right? And again, the fact that New Japan Pro Wrestling, still kept the Bullet Club going for so many years, it wasn't popping anymore. It wasn't popping. It definitely was not popping. And they ended it. I think they ended it a little too late. You know what I'm saying? I think they ended the Bullet Club just a little too late. I mean, the Bullet Club was not gaining any new followers. Shit, if the Bullet Club was still popping, right, you would still find this shit a hot topic and all that. It was a fucking trend, nigga. It was a trend. It didn't mean it. It was a fucking trend. And do I think the Bullet Club, it kind of killed New Japan Pro Wrestling's momentum? I think it did. Because New Japan Pro Wrestling kept on harboring towards the success of the Bullet Club to the point where they thought that whoever was going to be a member of their, American Wrestling was going to go and rekindle that success. And no, you know what I'm saying? Another American wrestler or another foreign wrestler. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, the Bullet Club basically died. I mean, it fucking died. It died. Like I said, it died once the Elite, wound up making the AEW. You know what I mean? Like it died then. And look at it now. It's no more. It's basically no more. And I think it could hurt New Japan Pro Wrestling in the long run. I wasn't going to talk about this, but thanks to this faggot ass motherfucker named Jim Baker, who, by the way, bitch, you know what I mean? Those might not be your kids, nigga. A DNA test, motherfucker. I'm going to talk about Jericho a bit, all right? Because all signs point to Jericho going back to WWE, okay? So people were like, oh, man, Jericho didn't show up. He didn't show up at Raw on Monday night. He resigned with AEW. Oh, man, he's going right back to AEW. He's part of the roster page and stuff. First off, dick fags, Jericho isn't going back to AEW. Okay? Jericho is not going back to All Elite Wrestling. Last night, after Raw, there was a report that was put out stating that, Jericho was actually in Los Angeles. Right? What he was doing in Los Angeles, I don't know. I have a theory. And I'm gonna tell you what that theory is. What I'm thinking. Okay? What I'm thinking is a lot of people seem to forget that, that TKO also have an office in Los Angeles as well. And I'm hearing that he might have done a Disney film and such, but people seem to forget, Endeavor's headquarters are in Los Angeles. TKO's headquarters are in Los Angeles. So, yeah. And shout out to JD from New York, because he kind of cleared up some things that I didn't even think about, right? The reason why Jericho, and think about this, right? AEW is very meticulous when it comes down to who they remove off the roster, who they don't remove off the roster, right? Off their roster page, right? He said something I thought about that I didn't even think about, that had me thinking it kind of made sense. He mentioned how, Jericho might have requested, right, from Tony Khan to keep him on the roster page until he signs with WWE, right? And it makes sense because if you look at that page, right, if you look at his picture, he's actually waving. He's actually waving. I mean, he's kind of waving. The signs, look, all the signs point to Jericho coming back to WWE. Shit. Even last last night on Raw, they made so many references. People did the code breaker. I think Io Sky did the Walls of Jericho and stuff, right? I forgot who did the code breaker. There was, the learning tree was also mentioned. This is all not done. This is all done by design, right? This is clearly all done by design and shit, right? And like I said, you really think that this man is going to go right back to All Elite Wrestling when they have no creative for him, not one fucking bit. This stupid motherfucker John Alba was the one that reported that Jericho is basically done with AEW. Done. He's done. There's a plethora of time for Jericho to come back to WWE. A shitload of time, okay? If not the Rumble, right? If not the Rumble, then there's a good chance that the Raw after Mania, we could potentially see the return of Chris Jericho. Jericho is signed, well, he trusts me on this one. All the signs are pointing to Jericho going back to WWE. Nobody's fucking stupid. These sickos want to play games and such. He didn't show up at thing and such, right? You know what would be fucking hilarious? If all that shit that the AEW sickos was talking about with Jericho, and then they go back on their word, like, if he goes back to AEW, and, then they'll say, they take back, all these sickos to take back all of the, the anti-Chris Jericho tweets and such. We didn't mean to say that. We didn't mean to say that. Come on, B. Come on. Like, who the fuck you fooling, nigga? Who the fuck you fooling? Jericho is WWE now. We all know this. We all fucking know this. Like, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, what's his next move going to be. And no, he's not. And you know what? Even if he goes back, even if he goes to TNA, right? Even if he goes to TNA, right? You still have the WWE relationships, stupid. You still have the relationship. So, regardless of what, he's not going to TNA. He's not going to TNA at all. Let's stop the bullshit. He's not going to Total Impact Wrestling. Okay? We all know Jericho is basically on his way back to WWE. Clearly. It doesn't take a fucking rocket scientist to figure that out. And you know what? For all we fucking know, right? Jericho already probably signed. And he's fucking with y'all. Him, signed with WWE, he's fucking with y'all. Probably Triple H and Nick Khan and stuff have everything under wraps. Everything under wraps, right? And it's just, telling Jericho, or spreading bullshit to the dirt sheets and such about, about Jericho and, and his whereabouts, right? Did you ever stop to think that? Huh? Did you ever fucking stop to think that, they could be, that they all could be in cahoots? Triple H, Chris Jericho, Nick Khan, Ari Emanuel, they all could be in cahoots, to basically fuck with the public, right? To basically fuck with the public and say, okay, well, let's pretend, let's fuck with the fans and say that, Jericho is not signed, and then bam, at the last minute, boom, they get you. This is how WWE fucks with you. This is how WWE fucks with fans and such. Bottom line, Jericho is WWE bound. Let's keep it a fucking buck. Let's keep it a buck. Anyway, guys, I'm about to be out. You know what I mean? I got tons of shit I have to take care of, but I'm going to holler at y'all tomorrow. All right? Peace!